You're not alone. Just know, just know that you're not alone, guys. You'd be surprised how many people there are out there that feel exactly the same way that you do. Sometimes we ask ourselves the question, why why is it so hard for us to come across like-minded people in our lives? For every person's, situation, it's gonna be a different story, a different scenario, but you all know what I'm talking about. It's funny how, you know, there's always constant this constant thing that gets pulled into these conversations, and it's like it always boils down to when we were children, right? Maybe maybe you were one of those kids that felt like something wasn't quite right about you, or maybe you know you had a hard time um, connecting with other children as you were growing up, because you've always felt somehow that you were a little bit different than the others. And that's not to say that you didn't get along with other kids, but deep down inside you felt like you were somehow built up differently. You just had this like inner knowing deep down within. And at times, it kind of sometimes even made you feel like guilty, like in the sense that, what is this all about, right? But I'm here to tell you that there was absolutely nothing wrong with you. And there's always going to be people like us out there. And the reason why, we don't really run or come across a lot of others like us out there is because we're looking in the wrong places. This is a pretty big world that we live in, and because of your uniqueness, how rare of a person you are, and that doesn't make you better than other people. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is it makes it more difficult for you personally to make other people that are not like you, that don't have that same mindset that you do, to sometimes understand your perspective on what life is all about. Sometimes, let's say you're having a conversation with someone, could be anybody, And then, when you're done to that conversation, it's like you can tell they're like thinking to themselves, what is this person talking about? Because they just weren't capable of grasping and understanding the depth of whatever you were trying to reach through that conversation, through that talk. So for everybody out there, it's gonna be different, right? But I just wanted to let you know you're not alone, guys. And there are lots of like-minded people out there just like you. And you were just looking in the wrong places to connect with these people and, you know, find common ground so you can finally be able to not, feel so out of place sometimes. You know, get out of that hermit mode. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with hermit mode and enjoying your alone time sometimes, having that little chit chat with your solitude. It'll provide you with a lot of growth opportunities and self understanding, self knowing, you know, aligning with your true self. That's the greatest thing about it. But there are so many people like you out there. You would be amazed. But you're not gonna you're not gonna find these people every time you're walking on the street. That's just unrealistic. At least not yet. But once more people out there start to see the big picture, then things will change, right? Then it's gonna be on a more even playing field, so to say, so to speak. Um, so as someone who's an INFJ, coming out like this, exposing myself, talking to a camera to a bunch of strangers out there that never met me before, don't know who I am, know nothing about me. But it doesn't really matter because this is what I'm here to tell you. There are plenty of us out there just like you. And you just have to connect to the right people at the right time. It feels good to be able to feel at home again in some way, shape, or form. It's kind of comforting in a way because you can finally see you've never been alone. You might have felt that way, throughout your life. We all have our ups and downs moment, like lows and highs, but that's just part of life. There's nothing you can do about it. Well, there is something you can do about it. Learn from it. Understand the lessons that are being provided to you. I don't know if you guys can hear my fan in the background, and if you do, I apologize for that, but it's kind of hot, so I'm not a big fan of the heat. I like the cold myself. But yeah, it's so strange for someone who would consider themselves like an introvert type of person to be able to do something like this and start to feel, you know, more comfortable about doing it after, you know, you've done it a few times, because then you get to understand, you get to see that there's nothing to be afraid of. It's really good when you can face your fears, whatever they are, and you can show it to yourself that, you know, it's no big deal. You have nothing to lose. Like, you have nothing to hide. So, that's why, you know, after, you know, rehearsing things in my mind over and over and over again, I finally decided, you know, to start doing something. Because that's how change happens. You can't just sit idle there forever and ever, you know, and expect anything to happen at all. Because inaction won't bring you anything. It's just gonna make it feel stale, rancid. You know, it's kind of like if you got some clean water, you know, put it on a container and just let it sit there long enough that it becomes like this, like fatted, you know, rancid, toxic pool of junk, whatever it's gonna look like after a while, you know. Water needs to flow. To remain in its purest form. And the human body is made out of a lot of water. I don't know if you guys ever seen those experiments that Japanese guy did with the water, and I don't really quite remember his name. That's an easy thing to Google and find out. You know, feel free to do that if you're curious about it. But there was this guy in Japan that, you know, he started doing this like experiments with water, and he proved that water is like sentient. And what he was doing was he was like putting water in these containers and writing messages on the containers. Like he was writing messages like, I love you, I hate you, I am healthy, I'm sick, you know, stuff like that. Don't quote me here, because, you know, it might be close to that but not quite like what I'm saying, but you get what I'm saying. So look it up. It's very, very fascinating, to say the least. And then he proved through these experiments of his that our thoughts are like words, these frequencies that we put out there, they affect our surrounding environment. So by doing that with the water, he showed to everybody that that's how things work. And this is how, you know, there are people out there that they manage to create certain things for themselves, manifest things within their lives, because when you start to live in this kind of like mindset, that's that starts to shift everything around you. It starts to change everything. It's beautiful, really. Like, your body is made out of a lot of water. It's like 75% or something like that. It's pretty high up there. So, if you keep telling yourself these things, you know, with intent, you know, align yourself with it, reconnect yourself, then you're gonna start to see things changing very rapidly. And like I said, what is it that you have to lose? Just give it a shot. Take some time out of your day and do something. I promise you, it works. That's how you start to go with the flow. Stop fighting against the current. And be more like water yourself. Because then you will see that by going with the flow, things will change drastically, dramatically. You will be shocked. In a good way, though. In a very good way. It's fascinating, truly. So, like I said, you're not alone, folks. There's a lot of us out there like you that see things the same way that you do, that think about life the same way that you do. Like I said before, we're all connected. So, of course, there will be others like you out there. You were just not looking in the right place. You know, join some community. Find like-minded folk. It feels good. It really does. That's one way to start, you know. And that'd be the easiest way to connect with people who are not going to have a hard time to understand, you know, what you're trying to say, what you're trying to convey. because they're on the same frequency that you are. I didn't start doing this kind of stuff expecting, you know, anything in return or anything to happen from it at all. But if in any capacity whatever I'm trying to say here that others, will listen to or apply to themselves in their own life, if I can help just one person in any way, shape, or form so they can understand themselves better in some capacity, so they can improve their own well-being, mind state, the place where they are in their heart, then I will be truly happy that I have achieved something here. Because those are the only things that really truly matter in our lives. To be able to make a difference for somebody else, to be able to help somebody somehow, without any strings attached, without expecting anything in return. And that, my friends, that is the greatest gift there is. So that's all I had to say for the moment. From the bottom of my heart to yours, I love you all. Have a great day.